Even Samson, who had a nearly impenetrable defense, was defeated by a single punch. He would undoubtedly suffer a worse fate than Samson did. Dexter, are you ready? I'm coming at you. Dustin slowly raised his fists. Wait, Dexter's expression changed rapidly. He quickly stammered. I suddenly have a terrible stomachache and need to use the restroom urgently. We'll duel after I've finished my business. Without waiting for a response, he dashed off to the toilet. Dustin smirked, choosing not to expose BIC's obvious excuse. HMPH, what a pathetic excuse. Dante scowled, visibly irritated. The other Fallon disciples looked embarrassed by Dexter's excuse but wisely decided to remain silent. They knew that Dexter was intentionally trying to buy time. After witnessing Samson's misfortune, they were not eager to enter the battle ring just to be beaten up. The best-case scenario would end with them having a few broken bones, while the worst case could be death. Their only hope was for Declan to arrive soon. Otherwise, Dexter would never be able to escape his fate. Sir Dante, why is your nephew not out yet? Did he faint inside? After a long wait, Natasha finally spoke. You go and get Dexter over here. Dante frowned, pointing to a disciple. Yes, sir. The disciple ran for the toilet immediately. It wasn't long before he returned in panic, exclaiming, Uncle Dante, I've got bad news. Dexter has disappeared. Disappeared. Dante was taken aback, struggling to understand what was happening. What do you mean? I tried looking for him in the toilet, but he was nowhere to be found. I suspect he might have run away. The disciple replied. What? He ran away? Dante stood blankly on the spot. He had thought Dexter was merely stalling for time. He didn't expect he would make a run for it. This was truly a disgrace. Dante gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, anger written all over his face. How could a disciple of the prestigious Fallon family flee from a fight? This was a disgrace. Most importantly, he fled in the presence of the Duke of Lancashire. If news spread out, it would tarnish the reputation of the Fallons, one of the ancient houses. Sir Dante, your nephew is quite smart. He knows when to give in, Natasha teased. Dante's eye twitched, and his expression turned sour. This was truly humiliating. Go and bring Dexter back here. He will suffer under the house law. Dante shouted at the other Fallon disciples. Yes, sir. They didn't dare to hesitate and immediately scattered, searching for Dexter everywhere. They knew that Dexter had landed himself in big trouble this time. He would probably face severe consequences, if not death. I've always heard that the men of the Fallon family were brave and fearless. But what I've seen today has disappointed me, Simon remarked casually. He had traveled quite a distance for this event, but didn't even get to witness a fight. It was such a waste of time. I apologize that you had to witness that, my lord. We are to blame for not being strict with our teachings and raising such a coward. Dante smiled apologetically. Forget it. I've lost interest anyway. Simon dusted his clothes off and stood up slowly from his seat. Sweetheart, it seems like there's nothing else to see here today. Let's head back. I guess that's the case. Natasha nodded in agreement. My lord, leaving so soon. Aren't you in too much of a rush? Suddenly, a group of people walked in through the door. The person leading the group was a tall, middle-aged man with a slender build and fair complexion. He seemed to carry himself elegantly and was followed by two men and a woman. One of the men was unmistakably Dexter, who had just escaped moments ago. Griffin. Dante's complexion improved when he saw the refined man. He hurried up to him and asked, Griffin, what brings you here? The Duke of Lancashire has come for a visit. It's only proper that I personally come to welcome him. Griffin Fallon, Dante's eldest brother, replied with a smile. He then turned to Simon and greeted respectfully, Greetings, my lord. There's no need for such formality, Sir Fallon. Simon nodded in response. Griffin was a first-ranking official. His current position might be slightly lower than Simon's, but his younger age made him stand out. The royal family also favored him. He could potentially surpass Simon's career in the future. It's rare to see you interested in a duel among the youth. My lord, no matter what, I must ensure you will enjoy it. As Griffin spoke, he glanced back at the meek Dexter. Dexter, as a member of the Fallon family, you can suffer heavy injuries, but you must never lose your integrity. Go up there and have a match with that young man. Regardless of the outcome, you must uphold the honor of the Fallons. Do you understand? I understand. Dexter was aggrieved. He was currently shaking like a leaf. He had thought he managed to escape a dire situation, but to his surprise, Griffin had caught him right as he escaped the toilet. Dexter was even more fearful because Griffin didn't get angry at him. Griffin always maintained a calm and composed demeanor, never showing anger regardless of the situation. However, the entire Fallon family, Dante included, deeply respected Griffin. Nobody knew why exactly, but they were fearful of him. No one in the family dared stand against Griffin's orders. They would obey even if they were instructed to sacrifice their own lives. Dustin, let's do this. Show me how capable you are. Dexter stepped forward, looking determined and ready to face the worst consequence. Have you forgotten that you've already lost once? Do you want to lose a second time? Dustin asked calmly. Cut the crap. Today, only one of us can walk away from here. Take this. Dexter roared as he charged forward. Since he knew that escaping was futile, he decided to give it all he had. Fiery storm technique. As he got closer to Dustin, Dexter unleashed his ultimate skill without a second thought. Dexter's fists rained down relentlessly, and a series of punches descended upon Dustin. The force behind each punch was strong, resonating loudly. I didn't expect Dexter to have improved again. His Fiery Storm technique is now comparable to Samson's. The Fiery Storm technique is the Fallon family's signature move and is known for its destructive power. If Dexter manages to seize the right moment, there is a chance that he could defeat Dustin. The crowd was astonished and expectant as they witnessed those swift and relentless punches. Perhaps Dexter could pull off a miracle. A suddenly thunderous crash shattered the crowd's hopes. Before Dexter's fists could land on Dustin, he was sent flying by Dustin's palm strike. He struck him so effortlessly that it looked like he had swatted a fly. With a loud thud, Dexter collided with a wall after flying more than 10 meters. He lost consciousness almost immediately. The Fallon disciples sighed deeply, even though they had expected the outcome. Watching Dexter's swift defeat was still hard to accept. After all, he was an elite Fallon disciple. It was quite embarrassing to be defeated so badly. What? Griffin frowned slightly but quickly regained his composure. He had never witnessed Dustin's abilities before and assumed Dexter could hold his own against Dustin. He didn't expect Dexter to be defeated with just a single move. When did the Fallon disciples turn this week? What useless trash! He couldn't even withstand a single move. This is such a disgrace to our family. At that moment, a young woman behind Griffin spoke up. She was dressed stylishly and was beautiful, but carried an air of arrogance. This was Griffin's daughter, Daphne Fallon. Is it possible that my husband is just too strong? Natasha smiled faintly. HMPH, how can you be proud of defeating trash? The real elites of our family haven't even made an appearance yet. Daphne scoffed. Is that so? Why don't you prove to us by bringing out your elite fighters? Natasha challenged. Declan, it's your turn now. You must bring glory to our family. Daphne suddenly shifted her gaze to the young man standing beside her. The young man stood with his hands behind his back. He had a calm expression and appeared indifferent, closely resembling Griffin. This man was none other than the Fallon family's most talented genius, Declan Fallon. Declan, go and have a little fun with the young man. Remember, don't go too hard on him, Griffin instructed calmly. All right, Declan responded. He then went up leisurely, his hands still behind his back. This is great. Declan has finally stepped in. This guy is done for. Declan is our family's top talent and much stronger than Samson. He should have no problem dealing with Dustin. Good luck, Declan. Teach this guy a lesson and show him the might of the ancient houses. Declan's appearance gave hope to the Fallon disciples. As a core figure groomed by the Fallons, Declan alone had been the primary recipient of their resources. His strength was far superior to his peers within the Fallons, making him an exceptional talent. Finding a young talent who was comparable to Declan in the whole of Oakvale was like finding a needle in a haystack. In their eyes, as long as Declan took the duel seriously, he would effortlessly defeat Destin. I'm Declan Fallon. Declan extended his hand and addressed Destin indifferently. To make it fair, I'll let you attack me first with 3 moves. Please, go ahead. Declan had a nonchalant tone, exhibiting no signs of emotion. He even casually tucked one hand in his pocket, his body language showing that he barely considered Destin a challenge. After all, there were very few who could compel him to exert his full strength. The nobody before him clearly didn't belong to that category. 3 moves? Are you sure about that? Destin raised an eyebrow, wearing a faint, ambiguous smile. These geniuses in Oakvale were shamelessly bragging when they couldn't even estimate their opponent's strength. Destin wondered if they were really confident or just foolish. What, 3 moves aren't enough for you? Declan continued calmly. All right, I'll give you 10 moves then. If you can even touch a single strand of my hair within 10 moves, it would be considered your victory. His remark drew laughter from the Fallon disciples. Ha ha ha, Declan is so ruthless. He's not just underestimating his opponent by giving 10 moves as a head start. He's showing pure contempt. He truly lives up to his reputation. He has such strength and confidence that he can easily win even with giving Destin a 10-move head start. The crowd snickered as they exchanged remarks among themselves. Even if Destin was strong, how could he face their top talent? Hey, aren't you too cowardly? You refuse to duel even when given 10 moves as a head start. Daphne snickered. Destin may be skilled, but he still falls short compared to true prodigies. Dantas said with a smile. This was their chance to redeem themselves from the previous humiliation. Declan, right? It's good to have confidence, but sadly, you've chosen the wrong opponent, Destin said with a faint smile. Since you're so fond of giving away free moves, I won't hold back. I hope you won't let me down. Destin jumped lightly and gracefully ascended into the air. Then he thrusted a palm strike across the air toward Declan. Too weak, Declan shook his head. He stood motionless on the ground, not attempting even to dodge. Just as Destin's palm strike was about to reach him, he calmly harnessed his energy into a protective energy sphere. The semi-transparent shield rippled as he breathed, resembling gentle water ripples. When Destin's palm came into contact with Declan's protective sphere, a resounding explosion rang out, and the rippling shield exploded instantly. It shattered as if a bullet had shot through glass. What? Declan was dumbfounded. Before he could fully react, his instincts prompted him to defend himself by evading the attack. The force of the wind from Destin's palm narrowly grazed Declan's chest and hit the floor. Boom! Another deafening explosion reverberated. The sturdy floor was left with a deep palm-shaped indentation, sending debris flying in all directions. There were cracks sprouting from the palm-shaped indentation. An unmistakable dent, about a 3-meter radius, had been etched into the floor. What the fuck? The crowd was taken aback by the sight. No one expected Destin's seemingly light palm strike to carry such immense force. It shattered Declan's protective sphere and left a gaping crater in the ground. If that strike had hit someone, the consequences would have been unimaginable. What? Declan quickly distanced himself. The previously calm expression on his face was instantly replaced by astonishment. Even though he had only used half of his strength to create the protective sphere, it was supposed to be impenetrable by ordinary people. However, Destin could shatter it effortlessly, which was beyond his expectations. This was enough to prove that Destin's skills were not far behind his own. What's the matter? I thought you were going to allow me 10 moves. Why did you dodge? Dustin retracted his palm, a faint smile playing on his lips. He did say that, but that didn't mean he was going to stand there and get hit. Daphne retorted indignantly. Dustin, I must admit, you're stronger than I expected. Declan said seriously, honestly. I wasn't taking you seriously since. I didn't think you were qualified to be my opponent. However, that strike you delivered just changed my perspective. So Dustin smiled. So from now on, I'm going to take this seriously. Declan responded as he slowly took off his coat. His once indifferent gaze grew sharp. Take it seriously? Will that even make a difference? Dustin was doubtful. However, Declan ignored him and stated, It's been a long time since I've taken a duel seriously. And you're one of them. Consider yourself honored to be defeated by me. With that, Declan took a sudden step forward. Boom! An overwhelming force surged from his body like a tidal wave. Fierce winds whipped around in an instant, and a bone-chilling coldness swept through the area. Meanwhile, the crowd felt a heavy pressure on their shoulders. It was as if a massive boulder was bearing down on them, making it hard for them to breathe. Declan's hair stood on end, and his clothes rustled with the wind. He appeared like a deity descending from the heavens, exuding an imposing presence that made him seem invincible. What an immense presence! Did Declan make another breakthrough? Damn, I can barely catch my breath. He was already a fully developed divine-level martial artist a year ago. If he made another breakthrough, doesn't that mean he's a semi-grandmother now? As expected of the top talent of the Fallon family, he's truly incredible. The Fallon disciples were amazed as they took in Declan's overwhelming presence. They knew he was strong, but didn't expect him to be that strong. In just 1 year, he had once again achieved a breakthrough, moving up to the rank of a semi-grandmother. In Oakvale, and even across Dragon Marsh, individuals who could reach such mastery before 30 were considered prodigies. Griffin, has Declan made another breakthrough? When did this happen? Dante was delightfully surprised, looking at Declan in fascination. It was just recently. Declan went into seclusion for a few days and achieved the breakthrough. Griffin replied with a proud smile. That's great. Congratulations on the breakthrough. Dante couldn't contain his excitement. Although the Fallons had a substantial number of youngsters, they were still far behind the other 3 ancient houses, especially the Spanner family. When it came to exceptional talents, the Spanner twins were unmatched and renowned worldwide. That was how the Spanners managed to surge to the top of the 4 ancient houses in a few years, leaving the other 3 ancient houses trailing far behind. The Fallons, known for their numerous fighters, had failed to nurture youngsters capable of matching the Spanner twins. This had left the entire family frustrated. But now that Declan was close to becoming a grandmother, the situation would take a different turn. With further cultivation, it would only be a matter of time before Declan breaks through to the grandmother level. With practical military exposure, future seemed promising and could rival the Spanner twins, his, a semi-grandmother. Dustin raised an eyebrow and smiled. You're pretty talented indeed, but it's still not enough. Declan was considered gifted for his age group. However, he still lagged behind true prodigies. Scarlett had achieved the rank of a grandmother at just 18. Adam was weaker, but he followed suit at the age of 20. Declan was around 26 to 27, yet he was still a half step away from becoming a grandmother. Comparatively, Declan's achievements were not particularly remarkable. As for Dustin, if his memory served him right, he had already reached the level of a grandmother approximately 10 years ago during the upheaval in Elka. That year, he was just 15 years old. Good luck, Declan. Teach that insolent brat a lesson. Daphne cheered enthusiastically as she admired Declan's imposing figure. Growing up as a Fallon, she had always admired powerful individuals. That was why she had always been close to Declan since childhood. In her eyes, only exceptional people like Declan deserved to stand on equal ground with her. "Sweetheart, looks like your boyfriend here might be in danger," Simon remarked, his eyes narrowed on the scene. Declan is the top talent of their family. With his improved skills and ascent to the level of a semi-grandmother, few among his peers can truly rival him. "Grandfather, let's not jump to conclusions. Nobody knows how it will end yet," Natasha said with a smile. While Declan was undeniably strong, she believed that Dustin had the upper hand. "Oh," Simon raised an eyebrow, looking intrigued. "Sweetheart, you seem quite confident in this young man." "Of course," Natasha replied with pride. "The man I've chosen is undoubtedly exceptional, as long as the Fallons engaged in a fair duel without resorting to any underhanded tactics. None of their members would stand a chance against Dustin. I'm quite intrigued now. If this man can truly defeat Declan, he is undoubtedly a promising talent." Simon stroked his beard. "Young. Let's wait and see." "I believe he will pleasantly surprise you," Natasha smiled. Meanwhile, in the center of the battle ring, Declan's energy was charged to its maximum, and his body was in peak condition. His presence was almost similar to a grandmother. "Dustin, to show my respect for you, I will give it all I have. If you can withstand my attacks for 3 minutes, I'll consider it your victory," Declan declared confidently. Ever since he became a semi-grandmother, the world seemed different to him. Any martial artist below the level of a grandmother was longer a threat to him. 3 minutes is too long. "If you can withstand 3 of my attacks, I'll surrender immediately," Dustin returned the sentiment. The audacity. "I will make sure you regret this." Declan was enraged at being underestimated. Without another word, he shot himself forward and transformed into a ghostly shadow. He charged straight at Dustin. "That's so fast," the crowd exclaimed in shock. In just the blink of an eye, Declan had traversed a distance of over 10 meters. Their eyes couldn't even catch what had happened. Fiery storm technique. As Declan approached Dustin, he used the Fallon family's special technique without hesitation. With a forward thrust of his fists, a barrage of countless fist shadows swept out toward Dustin like a tidal wave. They were dense and overwhelming, making it nearly impossible to defend against or evade. The relentless barrage of fist shadows distorted the air around them. In the eyes of the crowd, it seemed like Dustin's body was also distorting and would shatter in the next second. What an imposing and terrifying punch! Even though it's the same fiery storm technique, the power unleashed by Declan surpasses Dexter's by tenfold. No wonder he's the #1 talent of our family. No one would be able to defend against that punch of his. The Fallon disciples were deeply impressed by Declan's incredible fist. Is this the power of a semi-grandmother? It's truly exceptional. With a thunderous roar, the crowd watched as Declan's rain of fist shadows struck Dustin's body with full force. In an instant, the ground cracked, sending debris and dust into the air. A wave-like energy ripple emanated from the point of impact, spreading outwards in all directions.